Let me ask you something personal. You don't need to answer out loud and you don't need to explain it to anyone. Just consider it honestly. What if the changes you've noticed in your body aren't signs that something is wrong with you? What if they're not proof that you've lost something forever? Many men quietly assume that reduced sensitivity, weaker responses, or fading confidence are simply the cost of time passing. That belief settles in slowly, and once it does, it shapes how a man relates to his body. He starts expecting disappointment instead of connection. But what if some of that change isn't permanent at all? What if it's the result of years of tension, stress, and neglect in parts of the body that were never taught to receive care? Sometimes the most powerful shifts begin not with force or medication, but with awareness and patience. Why so many men feel disconnected from their bodies. As men grow older, something subtle often happens. Desire may still be present, but trust in the body begins to weaken. Instead of feeling natural and responsive, intimacy can start to feel uncertain. Many men describe it as hoping rather than knowing. This disconnection doesn't usually come from one event. It builds over years of stress, responsibility, long hours of sitting, shallow breathing, and holding tension without realizing it. Society rarely gives men permission to listen inward. Instead, they're taught to push through, ignore discomfort, and perform. Over time, that approach creates distance between the mind and the body. When responses change, the mind assumes failure, even when the body is simply asking for care. Understanding this shift is important because confidence doesn't disappear overnight. It fades when connection is lost, and connection can often be rebuilt. Aging is real, but it's not the whole story. There's no denying that the body changes with time. Muscles respond differently. Recovery takes longer. Energy shifts. But aging alone doesn't explain everything men experience. Many changes commonly blamed on age are deeply connected to circulation, nervous system balance, and chronic tension. These systems are adaptable well into later life. The problem is that most men are never taught how to support them. Instead, they're told decline is inevitable. That message becomes a self-fulfilling belief. When a man stops expecting responsiveness from his body, he stops listening to it. The truth is, the body is constantly adapting. Sometimes it adapts by tightening, protecting, and reducing sensation when it feels overwhelmed. That doesn't mean it's broken, it means it's been coping, and coping can often be reversed when the body feels safe, supported, and given space to relax again. Where confidence actually begins. Many people assume confidence starts in the mind, but confidence is often a physical experience before it becomes a mental one. When the body feels relaxed, well circulated, and responsive, the mind naturally follows. When the body feels tense or restricted, the mind fills the gap with doubt. Over time, repeated physical tension can condition the nervous system to stay on alert. This affects posture, breathing, and emotional openness. In intimate situations, that tension can turn into anticipation and self-monitoring instead of presence. Confidence fades not because desire is gone, but because the body doesn't feel safe enough to respond freely. Restoring confidence, then, isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about creating conditions where the body no longer feels rushed or pressured. When physical ease returns, mental confidence often returns quietly alongside it. The overlooked role of the nervous system. The nervous system plays a central role in how the body responds, relaxes, and connects. When stress is constant, the body spends more time in a protective state, muscles subtly tighten, breathing becomes shallow, blood flow prioritizes survival, not pleasure or sensitivity. Over months and years, this pattern becomes normal. The body forgets what full relaxation feels like. Many men are surprised to learn that responsiveness depends heavily on the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calm, rest, and connection. You cannot force this system to activate. It responds only when it feels safe. That's why stress management, breathing, and gentle physical awareness matter far more than most men realize. When the nervous system shifts out of protection, the body often begins to respond in ways that feel familiar again. Tension builds quietly, not dramatically. One of the reasons men misinterpret what's happening in their bodies is because the changes are gradual. There's no single moment where everything shifts. Instead, tension builds quietly. Long periods of sitting, unconscious clenching, emotional pressure, and lack of movement all contribute. Certain areas of the body carry this tension more than others, especially areas connected to stability and control. When tension becomes chronic, circulation can feel reduced and sensation may dull. This isn't damage, it's adaptation. The body tightens to feel secure. Unfortunately, what once felt protective can later feel limiting. The good news is that muscles, connective tissue, and nerves respond well to gentle attention over time. They don't need force. They need consistency, patience, and a signal that it's safe to let go. Why quick fixes often disappoint. Many men turn to quick solutions when they feel frustrated or worried. That response is understandable. When confidence feels shaken, relief becomes urgent. But short-term fixes rarely address long-term patterns. They may override the body's signals rather than restore balance. Over time, this can increase anxiety instead of reducing it. When a man feels dependent on an external solution, trust in his own body weakens further. That mental pressure can become just as limiting as the physical tension itself. Sustainable change usually comes from working with the body rather than trying to control it. This doesn't mean medical options are never helpful. It means they work best when combined with awareness, lifestyle support, and respect for how the body naturally responds. Restoration is often quieter than people expect. Relearning how to listen to the body. For many men, the most unfamiliar part of this journey is learning to notice physical sensations without judgment. Years of frustration can create emotional distance. Touch can feel awkward or unfamiliar, even when it's purely restorative. That's normal. Reconnection takes time. The body responds best when attention is gentle and curious rather than goal-oriented. This approach isn't about sexuality in the moment. It's about restoring awareness and circulation in areas that have been ignored. Slow breathing, comfortable positioning, and a relaxed environment help the nervous system receive the signal that it's safe. Over time, this awareness often spreads beyond one area. Men report feeling more grounded, relaxed, and present in everyday life. That sense of embodiment becomes the foundation for confidence, not just intimacy. What consistency really does. One of the most misunderstood aspects of body restoration is how little time it actually requires. Change doesn't come from intensity, it comes from repetition. When the body receives the same gentle signal day after day, it begins to respond. Circulation improves gradually. Muscles soften. Sensation becomes clearer. The nervous system learns that relaxation is allowed again. Many men give up too early because they expect dramatic results, but the body doesn't work that way. Early signs of change are often subtle: improved comfort while sitting, deeper breathing, better sleep, or a general sense of ease. These are not side effects. They're signs that the system is recalibrating. When those foundations shift, other changes often follow naturally without being forced. Understanding the pelvic region without shame. There is nothing shameful or strange about understanding your own anatomy. The pelvic region plays a major role in posture, movement, stability, and circulation. It's also one of the areas most affected by chronic stress. Unfortunately, it's rarely discussed in a respectful, educational way for men. As a result, many men disconnect from it entirely. Learning to approach this region with neutrality and care can be deeply empowering. It's no different than addressing tight shoulders or a stiff lower back. When attention is calm and intentional, the body responds positively. Removing shame from the conversation allows men to reconnect without embarrassment. This shift in mindset alone often reduces tension because the body no longer feels avoided or ignored. The power of gentle awareness. Gentle awareness is one of the most effective tools for restoring physical balance. When attention is slow and non-judgmental, the body interprets it as safety. That safety allows muscles to release and circulation to improve. Unlike forceful methods, gentle awareness doesn't trigger resistance. It invites cooperation. Many men are surprised by how responsive the body becomes when pressure is removed. This approach requires patience, especially at first. Sensations may feel muted or unfamiliar. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means the nervous system is recalibrating. Over time, sensitivity often becomes clearer and more consistent. This clarity builds trust, trust builds confidence, and confidence changes how a man experiences himself both alone and with a partner. What men often notice first. The earliest changes are rarely sexual in nature. Instead, men often notice physical comfort returning. Sitting feels easier. The lower back feels less tight. Breathing deepens naturally. Sleep may improve. These shifts matter because they indicate reduced nervous system strain. When the body is no longer constantly guarding, it begins to reallocate energy. Circulation improves where it was previously restricted. Sensation becomes more noticeable. These changes create a feedback loop. As the body responds positively, the mind relaxes, anxiety decreases, presence increases. Over time, this foundation supports more reliable physical responses. The key is recognizing that these early signs are meaningful. They signal that the system is moving toward balance, even if results are not immediate. Patience is part of the process. One of the hardest things for many men is slowing down expectations. We're conditioned to measure progress quickly, but the body doesn't operate on deadlines. It responds to consistency and safety. Expecting immediate change often creates tension that interferes with progress. Patience allows the nervous system to reset without pressure. Most men who experience meaningful improvement describe it as gradual but steady. Weeks bring noticeable differences. Months bring stability. The timeline varies because every body carries a different history of stress and adaptation. Comparing yourself to others only creates frustration. The most effective approach is curiosity rather than judgment. When you allow your body to unfold at its own pace, results tend to last longer and feel more natural. The mental shift that changes everything. Perhaps the most profound change men report isn't physical at all. It's mental. When the body begins to respond again, the need to monitor performance fades. Attention shifts outward toward connection instead of inward toward fear. Intimacy becomes an experience rather than a test. This shift reduces anxiety dramatically. Confidence returns not because a man forces it, but because his body gives him consistent feedback. That trust is deeply grounding. It affects how he moves, speaks, and relates to others. This is why restoration isn't just about one area of the body. It's about reestablishing a relationship with yourself that isn't based on pressure or judgment. Okay, supporting the body as a whole. No single practice exists in isolation. The body works as a system. Gentle physical awareness works best when supported by movement, hydration, rest, and stress reduction. None of these need to be extreme. Small adjustments add up. Walking regularly, breathing deeply, sleeping consistently, and staying hydrated all support circulation and nervous system balance. When these elements align, the body responds more easily. The goal isn't perfection, it's support. When the body feels supported, it adapts in positive ways. This holistic approach restores dignity because it treats the body as intelligent rather than faulty. That perspective alone can transform how a man relates to aging and change. Releasing the myth of failure. Many men carry a quiet sense of disappointment from years of trying to fix themselves. When something didn't work, whether it was advice, routines, or solutions they were told would help, they didn't just move on, they absorbed it. Over time, those experiences turned into a belief that something inside them was broken. That belief is far more damaging than the original problem. The truth is, the body does not fail in the way people imagine. it adapts to the conditions it is given. If an approach didn't help, it doesn't mean you were incapable or beyond help. It simply means the approach didn't address the right factors at the right time. Letting go of self-blame is not avoidance, it is clarity. When frustration is replaced with understanding, the body often responds almost immediately. Muscles soften, breathing deepens, tension reduces. The nervous system responds to compassion just as strongly as it responds to stress. Choosing a supportive approach doesn't mean giving up or settling for less. It means shifting from urgency to sustainability. That shift alone often creates progress that feels stable, grounded, and trustworthy rather than fragile and temporary. Why dignity matters in healing. Dignity is rarely discussed in conversations about men's health, yet it may be one of the most important elements of real change. When a man feels pressured, judged, or reduced to a problem that needs fixing, his body reacts defensively. Tension increases, resistance grows, but when he feels respected, when his experience is acknowledged without shame, the body responds differently. Dignity restores agency. It reminds a man that his body is not an enemy to control or override, but a system to understand and support. Healing grounded in dignity feels empowering rather than humiliating. It allows men to engage without embarrassment or fear of failure. This emotional safety is not abstract or symbolic. It has direct physical consequences. When the nervous system senses respect instead of pressure, it relaxes. When it relaxes, circulation improves. When circulation improves, responsiveness and sensitivity often follow. This is not about motivation or willpower. It is about physiology responding to safety. Dignity changes the internal environment of the body, and the body reacts accordingly. Small daily commitments create big change. 1 minute a day can sound insignificant in a world that celebrates intensity and extremes. Many men have been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't require effort, struggle, or discomfort, it can't possibly be effective. But the body does not respond best to intensity. It responds best to consistency. A small daily signal of care tells the nervous system that change is safe. It doesn't trigger alarm. It doesn't overwhelm the system. Instead, it creates a steady rhythm the body can trust. Over time, this rhythm builds momentum. Circulation adapts, muscles release, awareness increases. Gentle consistency creates lasting change because it integrates easily into daily life. It doesn't rely on motivation, which rises and falls. It relies on habit, and habits shape long-term outcomes far more reliably than bursts of effort. Sustainable practices outlast enthusiasm. They become part of who you are, not something you struggle to maintain. This is how small commitments quietly produce results that feel natural rather than forced. Rebuilding trust with yourself. At the center of this process is trust. Trust that your body can respond. Trust that change is possible. Trust that you don't need to force outcomes or monitor every sensation. When trust is damaged, anxiety takes its place. The body becomes guarded. The mind stays alert, waiting for something to go wrong. But when trust begins to return, the nervous system softens. Responses become more reliable, not because they are demanded, but because the body feels safe enough to offer them. This trust extends far beyond physical experiences. It influences how a man shows up in relationships, work, and daily life. Confidence grounded in trust feels calm and steady. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply exists. Rebuilding this trust is one of the most meaningful forms of self-respect a man can cultivate. It's not about reclaiming the past. It's about creating a stable relationship with your body in the present. Moving forward with curiosity, not pressure. If there is one mindset that consistently supports lasting change, it is curiosity. Curiosity invites exploration without judgment. It allows you to notice what is happening without immediately labeling it as success or failure. Pressure, on the other hand, demands results. It turns every experience into a test. The body responds far better to curiosity than to pressure because curiosity does not activate fear. Approaching your own experience with curiosity keeps the nervous system relaxed. It allows subtle shifts to become noticeable instead of overlooked. Over time, curiosity often turns into appreciation. Appreciation reinforces positive change by telling the body that its efforts are being noticed and valued. This creates a feedback loop that feels supportive rather than stressful. Momentum builds naturally, progress feels cooperative, not forced. And cooperation is what allows the body to thrive over the long term. Listen, the final reflection. Your body has been adapting to your life for decades. It has carried stress, responsibility, disappointment, and effort in the only ways it knew how. If something feels different now, it does not mean your body has failed you. It means it has been coping. Coping is not weakness, it is intelligence under pressure. When you offer patience instead of criticism, awareness instead of avoidance, and consistency instead of urgency, the body often responds with resilience. Restoration does not come from fighting your body or demanding outcomes from it. It comes from listening. Start where you are, not where you think you should be. Be consistent, not extreme. Be patient, not judgmental. And allow yourself to believe that meaningful change is still possible, not because you are forcing it, but because your body has always been capable of responding when the conditions are right.